Hey, what's up everyone? So, in today's video, I played with Golurk, and honestly, Golurk is kinda cool. He doesn't feel completely worthless, but at the same time I feel like there's a lot holding him back. You're gonna see a couple different teams used in this video. I tried one iteration of the team, trying to make Slowbro work on it, along with Comfy as like a healer kind of trick room setup. That didn't work so well, I was doing really poorly, so I did make another team. But I'll kind of explain the two different setups I tried to use. So in the first setup, I wanted to try a no-guard Golurk. On both teams, they are Trick Room oriented. Trick Room Golurk is actually pretty solid. He has such a high base attack stat, a really solid HP stat. My EVs went to HP and attack. Now the first iteration that I came up with was no guard, and I wanted to fill his moves in with attacks that were not completely accurate. So Dynamic Punch, Mega Kick, High Horsepower, Poltergeist. Very hard hitting attacks, not 100% accurate, but if you know what no guard is, every single move that a Pokemon uses will hit guaranteed. So anything that Golurk uses is guaranteed to hit, anything that the opponent uses against Golurk is guaranteed to hit. Now, this is really interesting. I thought it was a very, very interesting move, or ability rather, because normally moves you wouldn't want to use very usable, such as Dynamic Punch, which is a really nice attack to say the least. It's 100 base power, 50 accuracy, but no guard, it's guaranteed to hit. So what ends up happening is you can just get confusion guaranteed, because it is a 100% chance to confuse if you land a Dynamic Punch. Honestly, that was kind of the real kicker of using no-guard Golurk, was Dynamic Punch, because if you had RNG on your side, you would definitely just kind of, you could get away with a lot. But this iteration of the team didn't work out so well. Now, both Golurks setups I used have Assault Vest. I think that putting Assault Vest on gives it properties of being able to survive some extra hits. So you can swap in on some special attackers, such as, maybe Clefable, some fairy type attacks. He can take a little more hits using a Assault Vest Golurk. Like I said, this first iteration didn't really work well. The final team I had with the no guard was Golurk, Slowbro, Dual Blade, Amoonguss, Druddigon, and Comfy. Honestly, really bad team. I had two Pokemon that would set up Trick Room, but they were all very slow, except for Comfy, and just not really helping each other out. Then I came up with another idea. What if I went with a bit of a different team? So this is when I wanted to try out Iron Fist Golurk, and Iron Fist is an ability that lets punch-based attacks have 1.2 times the power, so about 20% more power. Then I wanted to try and make a team around that. So my first reaction was, okay, all punch-based moves. So I looked through his moveset. He has Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Fire Punch, kind of like all the basic punches, Power Up Punch, Drain Punch, Shadow Punch. He's got kind of all of them. Now, Dynamic Punch I don't want to use because it's so inaccurate, only 50%, so forget about that. This team worked a lot better. This team consists, I think I did make a little swap here. I originally had an Alakazam on the team. Now, I would call this version 2 Golurk. You'll see this in the footage. It definitely played much smoother. I climbed the ladder a bit with this one. I dropped in the ladder with the first iteration because it was so bad. Second iteration, I brought myself back up to around 1250 in ranking. This team originally had an Alakazam on it, but I'm going to tell you what the final team consisted of. Golurk with Assault Vest, Iron Fist, Attack EV, HP EVs, specialized in, his nature was Brave plus Attack minus Speed. So really trying to get my speed down for Trick Rooms. He had Power Up Punch, Drain Punch, Thunder Punch, Poltergeist. Originally I did have Fire Punch on here. If you wanted to be a dragon killer, you would give him Ice Punch. It's really, do whatever you want. I wanted to throw Poltergeist on just because it's a strong ghost stab, so you could just kind of reliably do that. But I did originally not have any stab moves. So the initial idea is, if Trick Room's up, You can power up punch a weak Pokemon, you get free attack bonus. You can heal back with Drain Punch against Dark types, Steel types, Normal types, Rock, Ground, blah blah blah, and try to get a little more health back. This team actually worked kinda well. So, then the rest was Hatterene, Calm Mind, Psychic, Trick Room, Dazzling Gleam, max defense EVs, max HP, just make it kind of as tanky as possible with Magic Bounce and Leftovers. This Hatterene worked really well with this team. I don't think many people were kind of expecting the Trick Room setup with Calm Mind. I was able to sweep a few teams using Hatterene and Magearna, which brings me to the next Pokemon, Magearna, who's using max HP and special attack EVs. And then Magearna also had Trick Room, and then had Flash Cannon, Dazzling Gleam, Calm Mind, so another kind of setup Pokemon if need be. And then I gave it Leftovers to be a little more tanky. Magearna got a lot of work done as well. And then I also had Druddigon again. The idea behind Druddigon is it's a very slow dragon type. So if we have Trick Room set up, we can get Druddigon out, and he has a massive attack stat, just like Golurk. But he also has a nice ability called Sheer Force. Sheer Force lets any move that has a secondary effect do 30% more damage, but it nullifies their effects. So if I used Iron Head, you can no longer flinch, but instead of 80 base power, it's around 102 or something, because it's 30% more, which makes it incredibly strong. Now, what's also cool about Sheer Force is it negates the effects of Life Orb, so now you won't take the damage from Life Orb, but I did find if you have Outrage mixed in, I think Life Orb still did damage to you. I don't know how the whole calculation with Sheer Force works. It might even negate Life Orb percentage or something with Outrage, I have no idea. But I ran Druddigon with Outrage, Iron Head, Body Slam, Fire Punch. I wish he could have had something better than Outrage for a physical dragon attack, but it's what I ran with for the highest stab, just in case we could get a whole lot of damage out of it. Druddigon did some really solid work. It was able to do a lot of damage, have a lot of versatility. Our fourth Pokemon, or fifth I mean, is Corviknight. Bit of a defog Corviknight. I'm personally more of a fan of Bulk Up Corviknight. I think Bulk Up Corviknight is kind of awesome, but that's maybe for another video. So I ran Heavy Duty Boots, Pressure, and then Defog Brave Bird Roost, Body Press, Max Defense EV, Max HP. So the idea was kind of just be really tanky with Corviknight, get in Defog, potentially threaten something like Volcarona, or because you can typically take a hit from Volcarona if it's not set up, and then threaten it with Brave Bird, threaten some other Pokemon that might be part bug or anything weak to fighting types. I originally put Iron Head onto this Corviknight. That just was not a good idea. My last Pokemon is a Chansey, and Chansey is just a special defense tank. I figured it was obnoxious enough to work, and quite frankly it worked very well. Originally I made this just a complete support Pokemon. Heal Bell, Toxic, Soft Boiled, and Wish. It didn't work too well. Sorry if you can hear the cars in the background. Very loud. But I originally also had Wish on this set, which I did get rid of. I was able to do a little bit with that, I guess. The idea is just kind of be really annoying with Chansey. I gave it Eviolite, so it has crazy defense stats. It has natural cures, so when you switch out, you don't have to have anything, ailments on you anymore. But, Heal Bell, Toxic. I feel like the set's kind of self-explanatory. But I did end up giving it Seismic Toss, just so it can do a little more. But that's the team that got me the most success. It honestly works pretty well. Very well-rounded Pokemon, I would say. So basically, I want to talk about why Golurk, I think, is held back a lot. So Golurk, I believe, is like I think it's RU or PU tier. I forget which tier it's actually in. I'll look that up right now even. PU borderline. Okay, so Golurk is PU borderline. Basically, it's not great. It's kind of lackluster. Base 124 attack, you'd think it would be a bit better, but I'd say its moveset kind of limits what it's able to do. It has crazy potential to do a lot of damage, but it typically can't really survive too much. I feel like it's weak to quite a bit. But if you play smart, especially with a Trick Room team, you can make Golurk do dents in the opponent. My biggest issue with Golurk is the lack of setup potential. I'm looking at the list right now. It has Curse, but it's a Ghost type, so you can't set up with Curse on a Ghost type. And it doesn't really have much else. It has Rock Polish, but it doesn't really matter. Why would you want to raise this thing's speed? I mean, maybe you can make a Rock Polish Golurk work, but I feel like it's not too worthwhile setting up Rock Polish because it's weak to a lot. It doesn't have the greatest defense stats. 80 defense, 80 special defense. Not horrible, but you definitely need to invest in it to get real potential from its defense. Besides that, it doesn't really have anything. It has defense curl, you're never going to use that. That's kind of about it. Maybe you could do some imprison gimmicks. It does have iron defense. You could potentially make this a strong wall with Drain Punch. Drain Punch, iron defense if you're up against physical attackers. I can see that maybe working. But you would need some stroke of luck for the Pokemon you're up against. So I don't really think there's too much in terms of out-gimmicking your opponent besides just having a massive attack stat and doing Trick Room. There's just not much really going for the Pokemon. Maybe you could do Gyro Ball as well. That's not a bad idea. Or Heavy Slam or Heat Crash could be really good as well. But I just don't see... I feel like I said, I feel like this Pokemon is held back a bit. If they gave it something like Bulk Up, I think this would be a really powerful Pokemon. Switch in on an electric type attack, go for the Bulk Up. Now your massive attack stat gets a boost, and you're a little more tanky to physical attacks, to where it might even be like, it could potentially become a Zero Aura counter, because you could set up on a Plasma Fist switch in, probably take the knockoff, but if you're in Trick Room, you can go for Bulk Up, take the hit, go for some defense EVs even. It could be something that could actually challenge some threats if it had something like Bulk Up. But I just don't see that. You know, he doesn't have anything that can boost power and defense at the same time like other big threats can, such as Snorlax. Snorlax can be a huge threat with a Curse setup, because now you're boosting your defense and your attack, and if you're in Trick Room, you can move first and lower your speed to guarantee you move first against other opponents. I mean, but Snorlax isn't that great either, for its own reasons. But there's still, you know, Snorlax has, I feel, a lot more potential than Golurk. Golurk, I guess, has Block, it has Imprison, it has some more double stuff like Ally Switch. I guess you could try things like Gravity, Helping Hand, you know, it has Round if you were to make a Round team on it. It has Safeguard, it has Self-Destruct if you really wanted to just go for a gimmick of just blowing up and doing a lot of damage. Maybe this Pokemon's a little better in doubles, I don't know. I don't really play doubles. On a Trick Room team, this Pokemon's not bad, I will be honest. I had a lot of success in Trick Room with this Pokemon. Switch-ins on Thunder types, such as Pincurchin? I'm actually not sure how to pronounce the name, because I haven't read the name too closely. But you can get some pretty safe switch-ins on that, because they generally just want to go for a Thunder, or electric type attack. You can have some good switch-ins against Rotom Heat, potentially, especially with Assault Vest, to potentially take like an Overheat. Zero Aura can be a good switch-in, and if you're running a ground type attack, you could probably KO it. You know, this Pokemon has a lot of potential to cover a lot of bases. It has so many different moves. You know, if you're running Iron Fist, you could have Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Fire Punch, Drain Punch, Power Up Punch. So many different elements that you can use. So many different typings that you can use on this Pokemon. You can go for Ghost Stab, Ground Stab. You can go for really strong fighting type moves, really strong steel type, fire type. There's so many different things this Pokemon has, but it's so limited because of its stats, I feel like. Now, that's why Trick Room, I think, is really, really good for this Pokemon. If you're on Trick Room with Golurk, you're typically going to outspeed a lot of threats. And things that are slower usually, things that are slower might be slower than Golurk, so you won't even need Trick Room set up, or Trick Room helps Golurk a lot. It helps it really excel, because it might be able to take a hit or two, depending on what it's up against. But you can definitely deal a lot back, and if you can go first against an opponent with Golurk, you can typically go for 1 or 2 hit KO, which means you can stand up to the various threats if you're running certain, if you're running the right elements, or typing advantages, such as having Drain Punch against something like a Bisharp. You move first, you could probably KO it. If you have something like Thunder Punch against a few water-type Pokemon, you can likely go for a KO on it. If you have Poltergeist, you can KO Psychic types or Ghost types by outspeeding them, just going for the one-shot. It honestly has a lot of potential with Trick Room setup to do a lot, which is why I also brought Druddigon. So I focus on Golurk and Druddigon kind of being the stall breakers, because Druddigon can learn some really amazing coverage types as well, some amazing coverage typing as well, but also has sheer force available, which makes a lot of his attacks incredibly strong. Now, if Druddigon had something like Dragon Dance, it would probably be absolutely busted. If it knew Dragon Dance, you'd have crazy amounts of potential with Trick Room, I feel like, because once Trick Room ends, all you really have to do is, oh, I already set up Dragon Dance, now I outspeed everything, so you could throw it in at the end of a Trick Room. But sadly, it doesn't have a Dragon Dance, and it's still an OU, because it's just such a powerful Pokemon. And I feel like combining Golurk with Druddigon to cover different typings, you can do a lot of damage while Trick Room is up, because they're both very slow, but have massive attack stats. Now, what Druddigon is better at is a little more survivability, and also just dealing more damage. Now, if I was to go back and do another team with Golurk, I would test something with Choice Band. Choice Band with no guard, and then go for Dynamic Fists, go for Poltergeist, go for Earthquake, High Horsepower. I mean, it doubles, you probably run High Horsepower, but something like Earthquake, Poltergeist, Dynamic Punch, Mega Kick, with a Choice Band, and Golurk could do so much damage. But as you'll see in the clips playing in the background, Golurk has the potential to do a lot of damage if the opponent is not ready for a massive attack stat to hit it. So, massive defense walls, it's going to take more, but you can still dent their Pokemon. Now, I found threats to this team to be something like Skarmory. It's kind of hard to get through a Skarmory with this team, for instance. But you can find success if you play your cards right with something like Magearna, setting up Calm Minds. Or if they're not running Roost, just going for Fire Punches or Thunder Punches. Or trying to set up Power Up Punch. But typically they have a Hurricane. So, all in all, Golurk, design-wise, I think is pretty cool. Golurk, in terms of usability, is a little half and half. Now, I am talking about OU. I'm sure it's pretty strong over in PU. Because, well, it's in Borderline, so there's a reason it's in Borderline. So I imagine it is incredibly powerful in tiers below trying to run Trick Room teams. But in OU, has the potential to be a stall breaker, also has the potential to just get walled itself. So it's kind of half-half to me. I feel like if you want to give it a shot yourself, go for it. Try to make your own Golurk work, because I feel like there are, especially with Trick Room up, a lot of options available to Golurk to do a lot of damage. You could probably give it Life Orb, just be a coverage Pokemon that does a lot of damage. You could probably give it Choice Band and just go for dynamic punches all day using no guard. You could go or even just going with Poltergeist and guaranteeing it lands. You could even go for Air Balloon and be safe on switch-ins against ground type attacks and electric type attacks. I feel like there's a lot of choices here. As long as Trick Room is set up, Golurk is a threat that you have to look out for, unless you are boosting defense against it. Do I recommend Golurk? Maybe on a Trick Room team if you're looking for something really strong, but then you might want to look for something like a Druddigon. Then again, Golurk can run Iron Fist Power-Up Punch, so you can potentially get some really incredible attack stats against weak Pokemon. So, try it out yourself. Let me know how it works, if you want. I think I've talked enough about this. I kind of got my thoughts and feelings off my chest about the this Pokemon I've been using for the past few days. And I hope this video was kind of entertaining, or you learned something new. So, if you liked the video, leave a like. If you want to talk about it, leave a comment. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.